Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about Eltharion the Grim and his completely broken campaign in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And this campaign is easily one of the most broken in the game. Even though Eltharion is absolutely a good legendary lord, his faction mechanics are good, he does have unique units, he does have a good amount of power in High Elves. While they don't necessarily play in the most interesting way in the campaign, they certainly are a powerful race. But Eltharion's campaign is easily one of the more frustrating ones, if you will, to actually experience in the game. To explain this, it is important to understand what Eltharion is required to do in his campaign. So his campaign victory conditions require him to upgrade the prison of Athel Tamara 5 times, so the Batcave, if you will, 5 times, and then upgrade it fully. So all these upgrades, but these upgrades require you to spend Warden supplies. Now you start with a couple of them, but you're gonna need more, a lot more Warden supplies. And the chief way you gain Warden supplies in a campaign, if I just lower the battle difficulty to easy to just out-resolve this, but the chief way you gain Warden supplies is you capture enemy lords, because every army that Eltharion has this ability, the Warden Cage. It's a massive debuff, it lasts a decent amount of time. You can certainly kill a lord during this, especially if they're low HP. Like, just use this ability when they get to low HP, target them with all your range units, magic, etc. Then kill them, and then you capture them, if the debuff is still active by the time they die. But here's the real problem. You're not just going to do this a couple of times in a campaign. You're going to do this constantly throughout the course of a campaign. Again and again and again and again and again. And there's two issues that come out of this. One, the fact that you're forced to fight a lot of meaningless battles manually, but it's also the way you're fighting those battles. It's not like just, oh, you just want to resolve everything. There's a discussion on that subject. But not only are you forced to fight a lot of these meaningless battles, like that battle over there, that's fine, it's the first battle of the campaign, you probably want to fight that manually anyway. Unless you're playing a multiplayer campaign. In which case, auto-resolve is the norm for that. But multiplayer campaigns are played differently, right? You play them on lower difficulties because if you're going versus each other, and you may fight fewer manual battles because no one wants to wait for you to fight a shitty battle manually. That's one thing too. Also worth pointing out that yes, multiplayer campaigns and communities are an actual thing. Now on top of this, so not only are you forced to fight these battles manually, but you're also forced to fight them in a less than interesting way, because you want to kill the enemy lord, but you want to kill him in a specific way. So every single battle, every single army that you encounter, you want to capture enemy lords, you want to put them in the prison, you want to interrogate them. It is a very repetitive process, and it's not a quick process either way. So that in itself is a fairly major issue in Eltharion's campaign, in the way it actually is designed and the way it actually works. Now, outside of that, Eltharion does have some phenomenal things going for him in his campaign. So if we look at his skill line, he's certainly focused on the melee aspect of the High Elves. But this is fine because, you know, getting armor for spearmen is solid. Getting construction for wall and garrison buildings, construction time, armor when defending for his army, enemy leadership in a region, campaign movement range, grim discipline, as well as various other benefits are pretty good. I'm not really sold on his magic aspect because you're just going to benefit more focusing on melee with him than magic, though he is a pretty decent magic user as well. He certainly has a good lore of magic. Like, hilariously, Eltharion, who's a hybrid mage melee lord, actually has a better lore of magic than Teclis, because he gets things like Fiery Convocation, which is a really useful spell to have to be able to cast regularly. He also has Stormwing, so he has a Griffin mount. So all that does end up working in his favor. But on top of that, you also get these Mistwalker units, which are units limited by unit capacity, but you can increase that capacity in a campaign. And this does give you more unit variety in a High Elven campaign than you would get otherwise. It is a bit annoying to have to, get to tier 5 to unlock some of this, and unit capacity could be handled better, sure, but ultimately it does end up working during the course of a campaign. The power's there. And even the prison itself, the kind of benefits you are getting for this prison, interrogating prisoners, getting money, getting experience, or getting a portion of the enemy's income, is in itself also really, really powerful. So the power is there, but this is also a campaign you would never play, or rarely play if you're handling a multiplayer campaign, for instance, just because of the tedium that is required to go for it. Because the auto-resolve will rarely actually see you capture a lord. Frustrating, whereas you can pretty much guarantee you capture a lord in every single battle, assuming there's an enemy lord leading an opponent. An opponent's army. But there's actually more to this situation than just like, oh, the shitty warden cage dynamic. See, you look at Eltharion's campaign. He has a dual start between Ulthuan and the Badlands. You can focus on one or the other. Absolutely. It's generally going to work out better in the long term if you keep Torivras. It might work out better in the short term if you give it up. But you will have that kind of dynamic choice to make over there. Though I'm not really a big fan of dual starts in a lot of ways. So if you're looking at Eltharion, Malastart Blade, and Eltharion, dual starts do tend to have quite a few issues. In the case of Eltharion, the problem with his dual start campaign is climate. So campaigns ultimately do get affected significantly by climate. You do have frozen, temperate island, wasteland. But here's what you're really lacking. Mountain. Guess what there are a lot of in the Badlands, or near to the Badlands? Mountains. So you end up in playing a campaign that inherently is going to limit the amount of territory that you have over here. You don't even face Grom. Like, the whole point of Eltharion's campaign shtick is for him to actually end up facing Grom, right? But while you do have a long campaign victory condition, Grom is right here in Bretonnia, and he generally gets wiped out by Bretonnia. Let alone the fact that your long campaign does require you to actually have either an ally control Torivras or yourself. So it ends up limiting your campaign potential. Because you can take a bit of territory over here in the Badlands, but then you're going to quickly figure out that you're going to run out of territory. Because you don't have desert, it's literally uninhabitable, mountain is unpleasant, temperate is unpleasant. So in Eltharion's campaign, you might start in the Badlands, but in some way, and your victory conditions do require you to focus on that, because corn, etc. But your buildup of territory is not going to be great, and really, the most amount of power you can gain in this campaign is focusing on Nagaron, because it will buff up your economy, give you more settlements, give you more potential, give you Confederation of Legendary Lords. So ultimately, you end up playing a shittier version of Tyrion or Alariel's campaign. That is an inherent issue of the High Elves, sure, but here's a comparison I wish to make. Consider Imric. Imric has mountain. And while Imric does suffer for not having tunneling stance, when he is in those heavily mountain areas, he does have a lot of things going for him in his campaign. He does benefit from taking Ulthuan, but his climate actually affects him negatively with regards to Nagaron. So you don't want to focus on Ulthuan as the primary thing in your campaign, with the Darklands being a secondary thing. Whereas with Eltharion, you want to focus on the Darklands for victory conditions and the like, but your primary focus in terms of powerful armies, etc., should actually be on Torivras in this area, dealing with Akari, securing Ulthuan, going into Nagaron, etc. It creates a pretty bad dynamic in a campaign. So you've got the split focus, you've got split resources, you don't have the best climate situation, and you have that constant annoyance of having to fight battles manually. This makes it easily one of the worst High Elven campaigns in the game. The only reason it's not the worst High Elven campaign is because Teclis exists. Because Eltharion at least can have a campaign. Teclis is just floating garbage in the middle of the jungle somewhere. That is Teclis's campaign. In a nutshell, you're better off literally playing garbage than playing Teclis's campaign. But it is those kind of frustrations, and what is especially frustrating when you think about Eltharion's campaign, he is a powerful legendary lord. His mechanics in terms of the effects they give you are pretty okay, pretty solid. Not necessarily the best in the world, to be sure, but you can get, you have one of the problems with unit capacity is getting initial unit capacity. But well, then you look at the prison itself, right? And you consider the fact that in the prison itself, you can get some of that unit capacity as well, like unit capacity Skyhawk, Sentinel, Spire Guard. So you don't just need a bunch of higher tier settlements. You can get a good amount of unit capacity earlier on in a campaign by using the Warden supplies. So that is one thing that's really going for him. He's got scalability, he's got unit variety. He should have a freaking awesome campaign because he's literally Batman in the Warhammer universe, but he doesn't. And that's kind of what makes it worse from my perspective with Teclis, because Teclis is just garbage, right? You ignore garbage. You say you put it there in a corner and it's like just bad, right? But when you see a campaign that has the potential to be good, has all the building blocks necessary to be good, but it's not, that ends up being more frustrating. That's all I had to say. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications.